Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right?
Oh!
The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa,
Super Bowl champion, two-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
and he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score! And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Welcome. This is Wacky Wednesday here on the Arrowhead Addict channel. I'm Adam Best with Sterling Holmes and producer Richard. We have a fun show today. Sterling, what's going on, man?
Dude, just played 9 holes of golf. I got my chocolate milk right here. You know, I walked, trying to replenish with some protein right here. Dog got a PB.
Is that like a Yahoo or something?
No, it's just chocolate milk, dude. I don't know who makes it. Anderson. I think Anderson's
Yoo-hoo, not Yahoo.
The proprietor of this said chocolate milk. Got to replenish. Got to get bulky in the season after you walk 9 holes. Got to get them strong legs. That because it's my only exercise. Let's be real. But I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Good. Did a mini vacay out in Los Angeles over the weekend. Back, caught some rays, just hung out, and I am, I'm ready for free agency. I'm ready for the draft.
Stingrays? Did you catch stingrays?
No, thank God.
Manta rays?
No, they kind of creep me out, man.
Okay.
Anything slimy like that,
Tampa Bay Devil Rays?
Snake-like. Yeah.
Everybody loves Raymond. Like that Ray? Was that the Ray you caught? Ray J?
Yeah, we better move on before this digresses any further.
All right, before we go anywhere, everyone who is listening right now, if you've not downloaded the BetMGM app, you will definitely want to take advantage of this limited time offer. New users who sign up through our link must deposit $10 and place a first wager of $5 on any live bet. Once your bet is placed, you will instantly receive $150 in bonus bets. You'll get 3 bonus bet tokens of $50, allowing you to make multiple wagers with your bonuses. This offer is only available if you sign up through our link, bit.ly/ArrowMGM. You can find that link in the description below our stream, as well as scan the QR code on screen to start signing up. Again, the link is bit.ly/ArrowMGM. This offer is only available to new customers who are 21 plus and physically present in legal gambling states. Please remember to always gamble responsibly. Check the episode description for the full terms of the offer to see if you qualify.
You ready to dig in?
I'm always ready.
So with NFL free agency almost exactly a week away, I think it is like 3 p.m. Central a week from today, it's time to bring everybody up to speed on the Chiefs cap situation and go through a mock free agency period, what it could kind of look like for Brett Veach and co. as they try to assemble a roster and stay under the cap threshold. I'm going to use, or I already did use, is it Spot Rack or Spot Track? I've heard it said both ways.
I call it Spot Track.
Okay, Spot Track. That makes more sense than Spot Rack. Spot Rack sounds like like Nordstrom Rack or something. I can't get down with that. So I went through the salary cap manager, played with some things, and I'm going to walk you guys through it. So the Chiefs start off with roughly $5.7 million in cap space. That's not great, but they can do some things to create space. The first, and I kind of feel like it's likely at this point, is trading L'Jarius Sneed. And for the sake of these 2 exercises, the mock free agency period we're doing and the mock NFL draft we're doing after this, we're going to trade him to Detroit for the 61st pick. Now, I think they could do better. Perhaps I think they could definitely do worse as well. That seems pretty fair. That's going to clear up $19.8 million. And the cap space now is at approximately $25.5 million. You feeling that's pretty likely? I know you talked about it yesterday, but
Yeah, I mean, L'Jarius Sneed, I would have to assume, is going to get traded. I think that's going to open up again, as you mentioned, nearly $20 million in cap space. I think that's a fair return right around that second rounder. Again, I pump the brakes. I think if you get a second, you should be thrilled. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah, there's the knee issue you've pointed out before. It's not a deal breaker, but it is something to be slightly concerned about. Also, Steve Spagnuolo brings out the best in press corners. We've seen it time and time again. Now, Charvarius Ward going to a different system and playing well, I think helps the Chiefs. It helps L'Jarius Sneed, but at his age, with a team trading and having to pay him, a second is a lot to give up. That's what we saw in a similar trade. The Chiefs got that return for D Ford. So the fun thing is we'll get to play around with that 61st pick later on today. The next thing I think they'll do is a base salary restructure of Patrick Mahomes' contract that will create another $7 million. And that would push the cap space to approximately $32.5 million. I don't think they always like to do that, but this feels like a year when they're aiming for a three-peat that they probably have to.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because I think you're a little better with the cap situation than I am. I mean, granted, there are like 5 people in the world who I think completely understand the cap. I mean, let's be real now. You look around at almost all of these websites who are highly respected, and they all have different numbers for every single team. Like, even they can't come up with the exact number, it seems like. So, again, we're using Spot Track's numbers right here. But would this mean that Clark Hunt would have to pay the $7 million up front to him, basically writing Mahomes a $7 million check? Is that how that basically works in this scenario?
I think so. It depends. I'm guessing they're converting it to a bonus.
Correct.
So,
That'd be my understanding. So that
they,
means Clark would have to pay $7 million.
Correct. They don't really like to do void years. That would be, there are things where they can kick the can down the road. They don't like to do that as much. But yeah, that and they've done that with Mahomes. They've done that with the bank of Travis Kelce, the bank of Joe Tooney. So it's something that they'll do. And I think to re-sign Chris Jones and build this roster around Mahomes with 2 elements I think he definitely needs, they're going to have to convert that. The next thing looks likely to me is re-signing Chris Jones to a multi-year deal around 28 to 30 million per AAV. Could be a little bit lower, could be a little bit higher. I think both sides kind of learned from last year and maybe regretted last year. That's kind of my take. Is that also your take, Sterling?
I mean, I laughed. I said last year the Katz brothers were the 2 scoops of ass brothers, but I think this year they're in a decent spot because they understand that they hold, in my opinion, a lot more leverage this season. They didn't franchise tag him. He's going to get paid. Chris Jones could get paid $35 million a year from the Texans. That would not surprise me in the least, like AAV-wise. I think 28 is going to be low. I really do. I think last year you probably could have got Chris Jones for 30. I think this year you're probably looking more in the 32 AAV unless he's trying to take somewhat of a discount. Salary cap exploded. Again, that's great for Kansas City, but it's great for every single team. Every team who thinks they're one piece away or they're trying to take the next step, they might overpay for Chris Jones because they, again, a team like the Texans, quarterback on a rookie contract, their best wide receivers rookie contract, their 2 best defensive players on a rookie contract. They can overpay this year for Chris Jones because by the time the 3rd year, 4th year comes around, that's fine. They got the best years of Chris Jones, and now they will pay their superstar guys. So these teams can overpay for Chris Jones. That makes me nervous. I think him holding out last year wasn't great for Kansas City, but he played well enough, CJ95 did, that I don't think it hurt him in the grand scheme of things. That does make me nervous.
This is why I was a little critical of Clark Hunt and Brett Veach last season. I mean, I think it was only going to get worse. I don't know if they were betting on Chris Jones having a down year. That was really the least likely scenario for Chris Jones, given what he's accomplished and how consistent he's been. And really, frankly, he's been pretty durable as well. I agree with you. I think they should have gotten a deal done. It would have been more team friendly than what they're looking at right now. However, I think Chris Jones would really have to be blown away. That chasm between the deal Kansas City offers him and another team to walk away from this historic chance to be the first team that ever three-peats. And for him to be basically like the Dennis Rodman of this superstar trio, or Pippen, whatever one you want to use, that's a rare opportunity. So I think that the dollar and cents of it would have to be there'd have to be a huge discrepancy.
No, I agree, but I always point out, have you ever seen a $3 million house? Like, it's absurd, right? Now imagine that for three different years. There's $3 million. So say it's 35 to 32 just for number purposes here. That's 9 million. Have you seen a $9 million house? These are real numbers that trying to put it into a better perspective, not just a arbitrary, you can't even imagine it. Try and think of something that costs that amount of money and say, oh my gosh, that's what I'm leaving on the table. That's what I am leaving on the table. I get it. They make so much money, an absurd amount of money. But it's not like Chris Jones is getting these opportunities off the field like Travis Kelce, like Mahomes. This is his earning power right now. It's a bleep ton of money, but once his career ends, it's going to dry up pretty quick as far as his earning potential.
He's a good interview. We got to give him
Sure.
He's a good interview, and he did the DirecTV thing. He did a local McDonald's thing. I think his star is growing as sort of the third member of that trifecta, and I think it can continue to grow. I mean, it's not unheard of a defensive lineman, whether it's Howie Long or Michael Strahan, to have a really lucrative post-playing career. I'm not sure that's totally off the table for him. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be in the stratosphere that Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes are in. I mean, nobody is. That is Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan stuff, right?
Sure.
So, but this is the best situation for him. So unless, again, there's a huge discrepancy and money is his primary motivator, I'd be surprised to see him leave. Also, the Chiefs were pretty quick to tag L'Jarius Sneed and really didn't even seem to consider using this mechanism on Chris Jones. So there does
because it was going to be 32 million, and that was going to be all cap hit as well. That was the issue. It wasn't just the 1 year AAV 32. It was it's 32 against the salary cap this season. That was going to be unattainable.
They seem confident, however, and I think I don't really remember them courting an internal player like this before. So for the sake of this exercise, we're saying he's back. We're saying that cap hit for 2024. I don't know if this is a 3-year deal, a 4-year deal. I think they can get that cap hit for this year down to about 20 ballpark. And that brings the cap space to approximately 12.5 million. So at this point, they're going to have to restructure somebody else.
Agree.
And so you either do 32-year-old Joe Thuney coming off an injury, 35-year-old Travis Kelce, or Jawan Taylor. Those are really your options.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I thought Joe Thuney got restructured last year in an interesting way. Let me see if I can find it, because I thought his got pushed out.
According to Spot Track, you can keep. He's one of the guys available for another restructure.
Sure. No, I completely believe you. Yeah, basically what it was you're not going to be able to release him. That's, I think, what it came down to. They restructured him, I thought, last year, and it made his dead cap hit for 2024, 21, almost 22 mil, and then for 2025, 11 million. That's basically what it was. That's how I looked it back up now. They can still restructure it, but they restructured it last year in a way that they couldn't move on from Joe Thuney. That's what it came down to.
And he had been the Iron Man up until last offseason. At his age, now that he's been significantly hurt and had to miss playoff action, I'd be a little reluctant to go back to the bank of Thuney. So I'm looking at Jawan Taylor, who I think looked better in the playoffs, who played fairly admirably against Nick Bosa. He's a good athlete, was a good prospect, good player coming into the Chiefs system. You get Andy Heck, who's one of the top offensive line coaches in the league, another year with him. I really, really think from right off the bat with a new team, this false start fiasco kind of making national headlines threw him completely off his game. So I think he has a chance to recalibrate and become the player he was supposed to be in Kansas City. Now, I think the contract is going to be too big regardless, but it already is. You can't cut him this year. You're stuck with him. And if you restructure him, that creates $12.25 million. That's as much as basically restructuring Tooney and Kelsey together.
My question here for Jawan Taylor with the restructure is that means you believe he's going to be here for 4 years. That's basically what it comes down to. And the question comes, do you believe Wanya Morris is a left tackle or do you believe he's a right tackle? If you believe that Wanya Morris can be as effective as Jawan Taylor, but as a right tackle, you might not restructure Jawan, say bye-bye after 2024 or 2025. I think you can after 2024.
Yeah,
it's like, still a big cap hit, but it's still way less than what it would be. I think it was like 9.5.
Compared to 35 this year.
Yeah, so if you really think that, hey, it's just we believe in Wanya, we think it's the exact same, but it's going to save us a lot of money, we don't restructure Jawan, get out of it after this season and move Wanya over to right tackle. If you think Wanya Morris is your left tackle, maybe that does come into the equation of extending Jawan. It all comes down to what do you believe Wanya is and how much do you want to see Jawan Taylor here? How long do you think Jawan Taylor is going to be a Kansas City Chief? That's one of the restructures that I would have a hard time making after we saw what happened last year.
It's going to come down to what they think of him in the building. There aren't a ton of other options. I think they could either extend or cut Justin Reed as the next basically highest paid guy. I don't think they're going to do either. They're not going to do either of those things.
Stop it.
They're not going to.
You're a Justin Reed hater at this point.
Look, let me describe the situation with Justin Reed. He's the 12th highest paid safety in the league.
Seems about right.
It is not. It is not about right. Now, why do I think he has such value to Steve Spagnuolo that they might be willing to pay him $14 million this year? Because he's very smart. Because he's a great tackler. Because he's a good communicator. Because he sets the tone. Because his coverage deficiencies are masked by one of the best corner groups in the league and one of the best pass rushes in the league.
Dog, he is the Nick Bolton of the secondary. I think that's what it comes down to. I think that there's your comparison if you want to make one. A guy
he also has all the same strengths and the exact same weakness.
Yes, but he is the guy that the cornerbacks, the safeties, that Spags, that they look to. Justin Reed is the leader in the secondary and one of the leaders on the defense. I get what you're saying. I know the numbers in PFF and the analytics, they don't like Justin Reed. I completely get that. But my eyes, and I think a lot of folks' eyes, they tell a different story. Yes, he's not a great safety. He's a good safety. And he's really good, in my opinion, in this system. Would he be as good on a different team where he's asked to cover all the time? No, he wouldn't. But with these cornerbacks that Spags has, with the other safeties that Shamari Connor and Brian Cook, and last year, Mike Edwards, I thought was a very good compliment to him. They all work very, very well in tandem. But again, he is the leader. He's a guy that is a tone setter. I'm not ever worried about Justin Reed, for the most part, being out of position or not doing his job. I know he's going to tackle. I know he's going to lay the wood. I get what you're saying here, Best, but my understanding here is if it were up to me, instead of cutting him, extend him.
Oh my God.
I would like to see.
Come on.
Dude, yeah. And you know me, I'm a big analytics guy. This is one of the few dudes that I'm sitting here going, I don't think PFF has it right.
Just go back and watch the Super Bowl. Almost all the passing yards that the Chiefs surrendered were on three guys. Were on Bolton, Justin Reed, and Mike Edwards. Justin Reed couldn't cover Ayuk. He couldn't cover McCaffrey. He couldn't cover Kittle. He couldn't cover anybody. Now, those guys are really good players. And I think by design, the Chiefs defense that wants to bend, not break, basically wants to keep everything underneath. So that makes those guys' job harder. But I would keep him this year because of his leadership, because of his intangibles. I think people kind of mistake him when they mistakenly kind of think of him as a Tyron Matthew replacement. To me, he is a souped up Dan Sorensen. He's only
he just turned 27, by the way. Just turned 27.
Yeah. And with Brian Cook's injury, who I think is a pretty good player. And Shamari Connor, I already think Shamari Connor is the best safety on the team. But I really value, obviously, pass coverage over basically everything else. But you really can't move on from him. But also, I don't know that you extend him at his age. Brett Veach doesn't like to extend non-stars of that age.
Sure.
So I don't think it's going to happen. I basically think we've come to the conclusion that as a leader, what he offers to the secondary, that continuity, that tone setting, that communication, he needs to be around for another year. That's a lot of money, though. 14, 15 million for a safety. That's not a superstar.
Don't disagree. And if you know my thoughts on safeties, to me, they're almost like the running back position of the defense. I think there are a lot of really good safeties, and most of the time, you don't need to pay. Like at most of the time, they're not making the biggest impact. But again, I view him as a leader on this defense. I view him as a guy that everyone looks towards. And again, a guy who I think is a sure tackler in a system where the Chiefs love using 3 safeties.
Mm-hmm.
You can use them, again, not quite as a pseudo linebacker, but a little bit. It allows you to have more versatility.
Oh, you can.
Just my opinion.
And Steve Spagnuolo has earned the right. If he values the safety position more than the rest of the league, who are we to argue with him? And that might just be the situation. I will say there are a lot of good safeties on the market this year. I mean, Diggs just got cut by Seattle.
He was 31.
Yeah, he is, but a very, very good player.
Sure.
But I think they stand pat there. The other option is the next highest paid guy is Charles Omenihu, who they're kind of in an interesting predicament with him because he blew out his ACL. He's probably not going to play a lot this year, and then he's off the books. Would you consider possibly getting a sweetheart deal, extending him? Maybe they would take an extension rather than testing the market after an ACL injury.
Oh, yeah. Because Charles Omenihu, I think, is also only 26. Let me look it up. Charles Omenihu, he's 26.
Yeah.
He's going to miss most of this season.
Right.
So you're taking a bet. Do you buy a little bit lower now, and you're risking, does he return to form? Or do you say goodbye? All of a sudden, his final 4 games, 5 games, whatever is back, he looks like a stud, and now he hits the open market at probably 27. I got to look at his actual birthday, and he gets paid. And he's going to chase the money because it's going to be his only long-term lucrative contract. It's a risky one. I think it's one where with the fact that Karloff is on a rookie deal and you have the 5th-year option, with FAU on a rookie deal with a 5th-year option, again, this all comes with the caveat you're hoping FAU emerges. You can afford to pay Charles Omenihu and take that risk. I think there is the ability to do that. I think I would do that. And by the way, going to safety, the names are great. I got to look more at all the talent. I know there's a lot of free agent safeties, but Quandre Diggs is 31. Jamal Adams is washed and a bum at this point. He can't stay healthy. And when he is healthy, he's not done anything since 2019.
Horrific trade, by the way.
Jordan Poyer. I love Jordan Poyer. He's getting up there in age too, man.
Hey, did you see that Tre'Davious White just got cut?
Yeah, and again, Tre'Davious White's like 28, way younger than you think, but he looks like he's 38 out there at this point because of all the injuries. I feel horrible for him because he was a top 5 corner in the NFL for about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, so that old regime with Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer and White, it's gone. It's kind of a new era.
Bills are toast, dude. Bill
in Buffalo. I can't believe we got into a long discussion about a certain safety today. I told myself that wasn't going to happen, but I think we are fairly nuanced about it. Hopefully people understand my position better, understand your position. Let's just say, for the sake of this exercise, we restructure Taylor, either Taylor or the combination of Tooney and Kelsey. That will get the cap space almost to $25 million. The next thing that I think we do have a lot of agreement on is signing left tackle Tyron Smith from the Cowboys for his estimated market value of $7.5 million. Now, I think there are probably going to be some incentives in there like they did with Donovan Smith, but I think we got to do this, right?
Dog, all the way in. It would be electric. I get it. I know he's missed a lot of games, but when he plays, still one of the best left tackles in football. I mean, again, at PFF, I always say take with a grain of salt. Look at his pass blocking grade last year. It's absurd, dude. I mean, when Tyron Smith plays, he's elite. The issue is he's not been able to stay healthy. But of any team who's able to weather those ups and downs, the injury concerns, it's Kansas City, and here's why. I'm comfortable with Wanya Morris filling in if need be. I'm willing to take a risk on Tyron Smith because of Wanya Morris. I get it. I'm probably higher than most on Wanya Morris, but here's the reason why. He looked good for the majority of the time last year with a decent amount of bad sprinkled in. Name how many rookie left tackles, who, by the way, he was a right tackle for the majority of his career. How many rookie left tackles look great in football their first year in the NFL? Very, very rare. Andrew Thomas looked like he was going to be one of the biggest busts of all time, and now he's one of the best tackles in football. Tackle takes so long to develop. It does. So you should expect a fairly big jump. And again, I'm not saying it's going to be elite, but the good last year is going to be more of the norm for Wanya. The bad is going to be less, and less. That's how it works with tackles. So for me, I'm comfortable with Wanya, not thrilled, but comfortable with him at left tackle next year. But I am over the moon excited if the Chiefs have Tyron Smith. If he gets injured, you have a backup plan in place that you feel comfortable about at least. That was a perfect move.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with him as a contingency plan. I am not comfortable with him as option 1A. Maybe option 1B. I do think Smith, to pad his Hall of Fame resume, he's made a lot of money. He gets a ring. And he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, I think. So maybe he's the rare guy that would take a little bit of a discount to be here. Just a little bit. And I think also the injury problems are going to drive down his price a little bit. Not going to be a fit for a lot of teams, but I think the Chiefs can do what they did with Donovan Smith. I think they were very conservative bringing Donovan Smith back from injury late last season. They wanted him available for the playoffs. And that is a similar strategy that they could take with Donovan Smith if he got banged up. They could put him on the shelf and just not bring him back until he was as close to 100% as he possibly could get. Because really in Kansas City, you need that left tackle for those 3 or 4 final games, and they can hold it down in the middle of the season. And really, I see what Jeremy's saying. Tyron Smith can't stay healthy at all. No thanks. You are getting an all-pro level player on a severe discount because of the injuries. This is not the kind of player that hits the open market, a top 5 left tackle, like ever. And so I think it's worth the risk.
Yeah, I'm glad we at least agree there. We don't agree on everything, Best, but this one we do.
Next up, and I'm not even sure I'm down with this completely, but it might be the best option remaining, and that's signing wide receiver Darnell Mooney to a multi-year deal. The market value is around $10.4 million per, and the Chiefs cap space is currently at about $17.25 million. I think that cap for 2024 would be maybe $8 million ballpark. They have to replace MVS's field stretching. And I don't really think they should go into the draft desperate to replace that. They might reach. They might pick another McCole Hardman too early. I know he had his moments in Kansas City, but he didn't perform like a second-round pick. You know what I mean? So I would like them to fill this void before the draft so they don't just bet on speed without considering who the best long-term receiver is that they can add to the roster.
Yeah, dude, I would love to pay $10.5 million a year for a multi-year contract for a dude who had less than 900 yards, just at 900 yards for the past 2 seasons. I'm out, dude. I'm all the way out. You can get production like that for $2 million a year, $3 million a year. I mean, that's basically what you got from MVS over his 2 years in Kansas City. And he was paid way more, but we don't want the similar situation. Like, I get Darnell Mooney's 26, and you're hoping, okay, yeah, he had to play with Justin Field, but not this past season, but the year before, he was the wide receiver 1. Like, he was getting all the looks, and he still went for 493 yards. Sorry.
He was better before Fields got there, though.
Oh, agreed.
And if you're looking at, I think we've just seen enough of Josh Reynolds. That would be another option. Noah Brown doesn't really excite me. Hollywood Brown has played with Lamar Jackson. He's played with Kyler Murray. These are good quarterbacks. So I just think we've seen what Hollywood Brown is. We haven't seen what Darnell Mooney is. To me, he's probably the best of these options. I don't know what the alternative is other than just saying, hey, we're going to fix this problem in the draft. I mean, maybe they could throw or take a couple bites at the apple, draft 2 receivers in the draft. Maybe that's a strategy so they don't have to spend here and they can spend this money on a defensive tackle or something like that. That would be another option. I just think probably the combination of talent and price, he seems like the best option to me of the field stretchers.
I get what you're saying. I'm personally not enamored by Darnell Mooney at that price. If it was 7 or 8 mil for AAV for 3 years, like 3-year 24, 16 guaranteed, sure, I would entertain that one. That's more palatable. But you're getting into 3 for 33, however much guaranteed. I mean,
that last year will probably be funny money. Like
agree.
Was.
Yeah.
So,
and I see edifying say Mooney only had 61 targets in 2022, calling it a number 1. Well, he was supposed to be going into that year. Not last year when DJ Moore was there, obviously, but in 2022, he got injured. I think he only played in 12 games, if I'm not mistaken, in 2022. I know Tom Hood says Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley's a lot older than you'd think. Like, he's a lot older than you'd think.
He'll be 30 in December.
He's basically 1 year younger than Mike Evans, which is wild to think about. Wild.
He came out very, very late. Ridley did.
In Calvin Ridley, not just injuries, not just the fact he's older, not just the gambling. He took half a year off from Atlanta. Like, he just was like, I'm done. I'm just gonna step away. Like, this worries me. That's not a guy I'm sitting here going, you know what? Yes, let me give you 18 mil a year. Like, no, man. He's
the anti-Mike Evans. Mike Evans gives you 1,000 yards like clockwork. You never know what you're going to get with Calvin Ridley. He's just too unreliable. No, thank you.
By the way, Angry Drunken German, great point. With Nagy on staff, we know what Mooney's got. Casey knows what the guys can offer. Good point. Yeah, with Matt Nagy, obviously he would be understanding of Darnell Mooney there. There's not a lot of great names. Rashid Shaheed was the guy I looked for. He's exclusive rights free agent. So you'd have to most likely trade for him because the Saints are going to obviously give him a contract. But he's a name that I think would be very intriguing. I don't know what you could offer to get that.
He'd be the obvious answer, but
Saints don't have any money. Like this,
yeah, I've heard that for a decade that the Saints don't have any money. They're going to keep pushing, kicking the can down the road and putting off the credit card bill.
He's my Richie James best. He's my Richie James.
I know, but God, I forget the guy's name. The greatest cap wizard who ever lived resides in New Orleans, and he will find a way. He will find a way. He always does. It's not pretty, but I think they're going to keep. Rashid Shaheed, he is a very, very efficient field stretcher. I would love to see him in red and gold. I just don't think it's going to happen. I mean, I think you'd have to give up something like a 3rd round pick.
It's a good call.
You'd rather just draft a guy.
You would.
Than draft him and pay him.
Unless you realize you're getting a 3rd rounder next year. No, it didn't happen. Dave Merritt didn't go to the 49ers. That's how the extra 3rd was going to come into play. It didn't happen.
And I'm thankful that it didn't because
same.
We need Dave Merritt to run it back, right?
Yeah, it's tough, man. There's not a lot of great wide receivers. I get people who are tired of as Tom says, the bargain bin wide receivers. Yeah, but the Chiefs are in a situation in the salary cap era, which is why the NFL is the greatest parity league in all the sports, is why baseball, I've said for the longest time, if you're not going to have a salary cap, at least have a salary floor. But not everyone's going to be all pros. Like, you're going to have to make concessions somewhere. And the Chiefs, they did last year, and this has been my thought process as well. You make a concession at wide receiver because Mahomes can elevate those guys. Mahomes can't elevate the defense. So you spend a lot of your draft capital, a lot of your monetary value, a lot of your money on the defense, on the offensive line, because as much as Mahomes elevates the offensive line, we saw what happened in the Bucs game. It's only to an extent. So what you have to do is make a concession somewhere. Mahomes ain't on a rookie deal. So What do? You make it a wide receiver, and you hope that in a 3 or 4 game sample size, the playoffs, the Super Bowl, he can elevate. He did. You got to hit draft picks there. Rashee Rice looks great, but that has been the issue for a while, is the Chiefs kept drafting guys and no one panned out. I mean, McCole Hardman's fine, but second rounder, Sky Moore was decent his rookie season. Horrendous last year. Couldn't even get in the field. I mean, they traded for Kadarius Toney, give a decent amount of draft capital for him.
Third and sixth.
Nothing. I mean, those are the draft picks you got to start getting production from. Now, you're not going to hit every single wide receiver. Look around the NFL. We always talk about the great ones. We always talk about the ones that guys hit on. We talk about Pickens and DK Metcalf in the second, all that stuff. How many Andy Isabellas are running around there? How many John Ross are just still running?
JJ Arcega-Whiteside,
Jalen Reagor. I mean, the list goes on and on. We only talk about the hits.
N'Keal Harry.
Yeah, I mean, so it's just tough. You got to find a way, though, to draft a Puka Nacua. You got to find your way to draft in the second round a game-changing wide receiver instead of below-average dudes time and time again.
Yeah, and I think you're right that they're willing to kind of sacrifice the wide receiver position for now because Mahomes is a talent elevator, probably the best talent elevator in the league. However, I don't think this is their permanent mindset. I just think they're not going to throw around desperate money. So I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't offer any of these guys contracts if the market gets out of control. I'm afraid because Mike Evans went back to Tampa so quickly that knocks everybody up a notch, and every single guy is going to get overpaid, starting with Hollywood Brown, maybe getting something like 20 a year, which would be crazy to me given his health issues. But I could see somebody doing it because speed that kind of speed is rare. So
can I throw an interesting name that I think people are going to absolutely hate, and I find myself hating it, but somehow enamored by it at the same time? Odell Beckham Jr. I know. That's my reaction as well until I thought about it more. Until I thought about it, he doesn't drop the ball. He found ways to get open, especially later on in the season with the Ravens. He actually quietly had a decent year. You're not paying him what he got paid last year, obviously. Mm-hmm. I see you, Alan. No, OBJ, you knew right away what I was going to go with. I get it. Just hear me out. And I get it. I'm biased because I've always liked Odell Beckham Jr. That's full transparency, always have. He wants to win. That much we know. I don't think he's going to get paid a lot. He's already made his money. I think he realizes now, and other teams realize now, he's not a wide receiver one. He might not be a wide receiver two. But on this team, I see you, Alan. I refuse to listen. I'm sorry. Travis Kelce, Rashee Rice, clearly above him. He ain't going to drop the ball. He will get open. He can still be a deep threat. And if you get that for 1 for 5, sign me the hell up.
I can't. I mean, Nelson Aguilar was getting more routes than him in the playoffs. I just think he's washed.
1 for 5. I'm with you. 1 for 5 for OBJ, or if you're going to pay 3 for 33 for Darnell Mooney, what risk am I going to take? I'm taking the cheaper risk. That's the way I'm going. If you're going to sit here and say, what's another name? I think Kendrick Bourne's an interesting name. I think Kendrick Bourne's kind of fun.
Gabe Davis, we haven't mentioned.
I don't want Gabe Davis. If Gabe Davis is 3 for 40, I mean, I think that's probably realistic.
Yeah.
Give me OBJ. I'm thinking, again, it's not sexy, it's not fun, but you're also not going the middling route and hoping those middling guys turn into superstars, because more often than not, those middling guys turn into what they are, if not worse.
Yeah. I mean, the main reason why Mooney is interesting to me is because I think he's been stuck in a bad offense that doesn't throw the ball, that doesn't have accurate or good quarterback play. So he's been stifled by that a little bit. We're going to get to receivers again in the draft, so let's move on. The Chiefs have other levers that they can pull to create cap space. We've been over a few of those. Who knows how creative they're going to get? It is worth saying that their cap guru, Brant Tillis, right? He is now in Carolina. So I'm not sure how that affects the math here and the magic, the accounting magic here. It could. I think the Chiefs probably have been planning for that for a while, since he's been a hot name in these kind of job offers. So I think what we're going to see is Drew Tranquil back. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I
hope so too.
If I had the option between Drew or Willie Gay, I'm taking Drew. I think Willie Gay Jr. is probably going to get paid more because he's younger. right?
And he's a freak athlete. Someone is going to see him as clay that they can mold into an all-pro.
I mean,
right?
dude, you saw him laying on the street at the parade, and that body it's just insane. Like, you're just, what? Like, he's not even flexing. He's just laying there, and like his obliques have a six pack.
Did you see that tweet? Sports but naked art. That
Yeah.
account like never ever misses. It was so perfect. But yeah, I agree with you. Like, someone's going to see him and say, I don't really like this player that much, but Devin White, like, I think athleticism is easy to get enamored with, and he has rare athleticism. But Drew Tranquil is so smart. He's so versatile. I think Spags loves him, and also Mike Edwards. If we're talking about the two Mikes, I think Mike Dana probably gone. I think he's going to be like Colin Saunders last year. Someone's going to give him a better offer than the Chiefs can afford. But Mike Edwards, with a lot of safeties out there, they might be able to sneakily get him back on the roster.
Yeah. I would love Drew Tranquil. I would like Mike Edwards back. I want Mike Pennell just back for the playoffs.
Lay away.
Hey, you just get ready. We know you're not going to St. Joe, big boy. We know you're not going to play in the preseason. We know you're not going to play the first 10 weeks of the season. Call you up about week 12. You get some reps in, get a couple runs, and then playoff time, you're just going to bulldoze Trent Williams.
Right. I think other signings in places they need depth, a running back like Antonio Gibson, who's a good pass catcher, a defensive tackle. I don't know if that's Daquan Jones, Sheldon Rankins, someone like that they can get kind of cheap. I don't know how cheap those guys will be, but those are the kind of moves I would look for them to do. But that wraps up.
Let's get Sheldon Richardson, dude. He's 33. I don't think he's played in 3 years, but I don't care. Let's get a Mizzou defense going.
Maybe he's on the Mike Pennell plan. Just, hang out, kick your feet up, drink some beer, and throw people around at the Super Bowl, right?
What's Justin Smith doing? I mean, he's about 40 by now. Let's get Justin Smith. I don't want to say
Alden Smith.
Nope. We're not going there.
I don't want to know what Alden Smith is doing, actually. But there are a couple of high-profile defenders from Mizzou in this draft, and that's a good segue to our next segment, Mock Draft 1.0. We did this at least once last year, and I think it's going to be a fun interactive exercise that we're going to do with you guys. If you have thoughts as we're preparing to make each pick, chime in, let us know what you would do. So I'm going to jump into PFF's mock draft simulator. We're going to do 3 rounds as the Chiefs. And the first thing we're going to do is that trade with Detroit for L'Jarius Sneed. 61 for L'Jarius Sneed. They better take this. They usually do. They didn't this time.
Oh,
So
dude.
I'm just going to throw in a seventh from next year just to get him to take it.
Jack, the Raiders guy in here. First off, appreciate Raiders fans being in here and being respectful. I appreciate that. We're inclusive here. It says no state tax in LV. Chris Jones alongside Max Crosby would be fun and scary. That would be wild. I would hate everything about it. I would be terrified, and I do think it's not a possibility, but they got a lot of money to work with. I'll also say there's also no rings in Vegas. No rings in Vegas. So
There is a Chiefs flag buried underneath the stadium, though, as far as I understand. You ready to start this?
Let's do it.
Do you think the Chiefs should just stay put at 32?
I think they should try and trade back, but no team's going to trade back. If they could not trade back with Will Levis still on the board last year, a quarterback who could get a fifth-year option, they're not going to be able to trade back this year unless for some reason Michael Penix Jr. is still on the board. And even then, I think it's unrealistic.
I don't think we're going to trade up because we want to see who's there at 32.
Well, they don't have a lot of capital to trade up for. Like
they just got some in the Sneed trade.
Sure.
I agree with you. There is one guy who I would trade up for if he's there at 20 or so, and that's Amarius Mims, because I think he could be a bust, but he also could be a left tackle that's a 5-time first-team All-Pro. He's got that level of upside, and that's the kind of guy you trade up for. You don't trade up. The Chiefs thought Trent McDuffie was a star. They went up and got him. you only do that for a guy that you think is a star. And I don't think there are a lot of guys with that kind of upside outside the top 10. I mean, sure, some guys are going to become stars that we don't really see it right now, but he's the one guy that I'm like, yeah, I would do that. So let's go ahead and start this draft. Let's see who's on the clock. Well,
oh, sorry. I thought we were doing the.
No drum roll. You can do the drum roll. I'm fine with it.
Apologize. Sorry, guys.
You just got a little.
I got excited.
Got a little carried away, as we tend to do on this program. The top prospect here is JJ McCarthy. We are not going to be interested in him.
This is at 32.
Yeah. Lad McConkey is the top receiver. You have Troy Franklin. I'm not really interested in Troy Franklin. I did not like really what I saw from him at the combine. His gauntlet was bad. His 40 was not good enough. And his BMI, like his size, is scary.
You know what about 40? Amon-Ra St. Brown. You know what doesn't matter in my opinion?
He did have a bad gauntlet, though. I'll tell you that.
Okay, that's fine. But you know what a great 40? John Ross. Look at the list of top 10, top 15, 40 times of all time. Wow. Outside of maybe like Tyreek Woolen, list ain't great. I just, that means nothing to me personally. I think we get enamored by it. I think McConkey is the most interesting in the name you said, but two names I want to throw out to you. I'm assuming Byron Murphy's gone.
He is.
What about Sweat?
I think we can get him later, at least in PFF's mock draft.
Okay.
He's usually around in the second round.
Alrighty.
Another thing that I'm interested in, we do have the possibility to trade back. A guy that I really like, worth considering getting the second best tight end, who I think is a really good player, JT Sanders out of Texas, great athlete. I think he's going to be kind of a Dalton Kincaid mold, can come in and contribute right away. Do you trade back and try to get a guy like that? Do you reach a little bit to avoid? I mean, would you rather have the second best tight end or the eighth best receiver? It's an interesting question, right?
I also think the Ben Sinnott from K-State's been really impressive. I think Ben Sinnott, you look at what he did at the combine. Again, I'm trying to calm down combine talks because I think sometimes they're unnecessary, but he came in a little taller than I thought, a lot faster than I thought. His vertical is insane. He was wearing number 34 at K-State, which made me think he was going to be like a fullback. And then all of a sudden you see him out, then you go, oh no, dude, if he was wearing 85 or 88, this guy would be electric. I think he's a name to watch for. I think
Theo Johnson from Penn State blew away the combine. And I think
what pick would you get back? Because I also think if you wanted to get creative with it, there are a couple other positions. Like if you don't want to pay Trey Smith, Cooper Beebe from K-State, another K-Stater, is going to be, I think, an elite guard. Which, again, the Chiefs don't need a guard right now, but I'm just thinking hypothetically down the road.
What's being offered is the Giants at pick 39 and the Saints at pick 45. So you could try to package, say, 32 and 95 for like 39 and 47. You could do something like that.
And then would Xavier Legette still be there? I think Xavier Legette's awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of guys that I like. I like Jalen Polk a lot. I think he is just a hell of a ball player. I mean, Steve Smith said that he's a dog who is, has rabies, is foaming at the mouth.
But by the way, I would take Lad McConkey or even Troy Franklin at 39. Like I think that's more of the spot where I'd take Troy Franklin, not 32.
Well, let's trade back. You want to see if we can fleece the New York Football Giants?
Oh, let's fleece them, baby.
Okay, I'm offering 32 and 95 for 39 and 47. And they accepted. The Chiefs' war room is going crazy. Jatavian Sanders is still there. The top wide receiver is Roman Wilson. Ricky Pearsall is a guy that's available. We might have to look at other positions. Oh, we don't want an edge. Enos Rakestraw.
Yeah, baby.
From Mizzou. We got a corner on the board. We just lost a corner. So,
and by the way, there's a lot of people who think Rakestraw might be a first-round talent. A lot of folks do. Ricky Pearsall is also pretty intriguing too. So I'm assuming Xavier Legette's out, right?
He's still on the board. I think he's going to be on the board for a little while. Keon Coleman is still on the board. I know he had a slow 40, but his gauntlet, he reached the top speed during the gauntlet, looked really good. You know who reached the top speed during last year's gauntlet was none other than Puka Nacua. So that GPS miles per hour on the gauntlet, I think, could be a new go-to stat for us.
I know Rake's tried a disappointing combine, but I'm still enamored by a first round talent. Like I hate this because the combine all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, dude, he's gonna be a first rounder. He runs a combine. Oh man, he was a bum. He's a third rounder now. Like what? You had all this tape of him. You have all this tape against SEC players. Why is all of a sudden him running in shorts making your decisions now?
Yeah, sometimes we overreact. And I think we initially overreact and then things settle down. I know that Rashee Rice's stock slipped a little too much. There was a little bit too much knee-jerking going on with his draft stock. Another guy, I think the highest interior defender, the highest defensive tackle on the board is Braden Fisk out of Florida State.
Oh, yes, Fisk.
You think he's the guy?
Yeah, then take Fisk.
Okay. He's one of the top guys on the board.
Yeah, why didn't you
We're
say
gonna
that?
take him at 39. I would have been happy with Jatavian Sanders, but I think defensive tackle is more of a need than tight end. So we will go Braden Fisk with 39. And you know what? At 47, Jatavian Sanders, the top tight end, is still there. Let's look at what else is there. How many receivers?
Is Ennis Rakestraw still at 47? Because if that's the case, you're getting a steal at that point.
He's not. Darius Robinson is the other Mizzou guy.
Wait, Darius Robinson is still there at 47. A guy who everyone thinks is going in the first round, top 15.
His draft stock kind of has been all over the place.
Dude, he is in the 97th percentile for wingspan. You're telling me that's not a Spags guy?
It is a Spags guy.
Bleep it. Double down. The Chiefs have Neil Farrell and Chris Jones if they get Chris Jones. I don't care. You double down right there.
I am very, very high on Jatavian Sanders. I'm just going to say that. And I think getting a Kelsey – he took the headset off. I think getting a Kelsey successor in the building, he's not going to be Travis Kelsey, but imagine Travis Kelsey grooming a top 2 tight end in this class and the Chiefs deploying more 12 and 13 personnel because they're all of a sudden replacing Blake Bell with a guy who can really catch and run.
Jeremy's asking who's playing wide receiver for the Chiefs in this exercise. It's me, okay? This entire exercise is for me to become the wide receiver, okay?
Let's look at the top 5 wide receivers on the board. We've got Roman Wilson out of wide receiver out of Michigan. He's a slot guy. I don't think he's a good fit. Jermaine Burton out of Alabama. I'm not that keen on him. Then we have 3 guys I like to varying degrees. Keon Coleman out of Florida State. Could be Mike Evans, could be John Baldwin. Jalen Polk, I think, is just a good football player. And then your guy, Xavier Legette. Those are kind of the top guys on the board.
Is Ben Sinnott still on the board at tight end?
Oh, he's going to be on the board.
I'm telling you right now.
I think for a long time.
If you don't take Robinson, who's a first-round talent at 47, what are we doing here?
I think
Jatavian
Jatavian Sanders is a first-round talent.
Or take your guy. I'm not happy about it.
You kind of called the last one. I'm taking Jatavian Sanders.
I don't have the ability, guys, because Best is the one picking this, so I have no ability to pick this. So,
okay, so here's what we have at 61. We have the big tackle out of Yale, Kyron.
Yeah, you're gonna butcher it. We can't draft him because I can't pronounce it, and that's the reason why. Sorry, guys.
Great wingspan. I mean, I'd love to have a tackle there, but we do have my guy, Jalen Polk, and your guy, Xavier Legette, right there.
Okay, is Robinson still there? Is he somehow still there at 61?
He is not still there.
You're lying to me. I feel like you're lying to me right now.
I'm not lying to you. The top player on the board is Kyrie Jackson, cornerback out of Oregon. And then Kyron, we can't say his last name, from Yale is next up, then Polk, then Legette, then Christian Haynes, the guard out of Connecticut, and so on.
Give me Legette. I understand people are going to be upset because he only had one good year and his route running is not great. You know what else whose route running sucked? DK Metcalf. Like atrocious. That was the whole reason why you fell to the second round. And sometimes you see these physical athletes and you're just like, no, dude, he's that good. Just draft him. The Chiefs need a deep ball threat. They don't need a technician in the slot. They need a guy like Xavier Legette.
And he's still a good yak guy. He's a good fit. But I think because of his contested catch ability, because of his athleticism and speed, he can win downfield. He can win on vertical routes. He can do some things that Rashee Rice can't. He's just a physical freak. He's a specimen. I really like Jalen Polk, but I kind of, pushed the last pick. So we're going to go with your guy here, Xavier Legette at 61 out of South Carolina, the physical freak of a wide receiver. And now we're back at 64, and Jalen Polk is still available. But let's look at other positions of need.
Is the Yale tackle still there?
The Yale tackle is not there.
Okay.
The guard out of Connecticut is. I don't think the Chiefs are going to go guard.
Is Cooper Beebe still there from K-State?
I don't see him, but
Yeah,
T'Vondre Sweat is.
If you don't take T'Vondre Sweat, I am gonna go to Arkansas. I will find your house. I'm gonna put you in a full Nelson and say you're gonna pick it. You're gonna pick T'Vondre Sweat.
If you go to Arkansas, you're going to be looking for me for a year.
Where'd you go?
I live in
Did you
Alabama.
move?
I live in Huntsville, Alabama. So close.
When did you move, Best?
I never lived in Arkansas. I lived in Austin.
You lied to me.
I did not lie to you. But are we really going to go double defensive tackle when
Yes.
we've already given Chris Jones
Yes.
his enormous contract? Just hear me out. Austin Booker from Kansas, the edge. He's flying up.
Best, I'm taking my headset off right now. Best, listen to me. Listen to me and listen. I have a certain set of skills, and I'm going to try and convince you why. Okay, why am I Pirates of the Caribbean? That was horrible.
Yeah, that was not Liam Neeson.
Hear me out. Hear me out.
That was Johnny Depp.
You have Chris Jones. You have Fisk. Neil Farrell. You got Isaiah Buggs, who again I think might be a rotational guy. You still need dudes.
You have Mike Pinnell, playoff Warren Sapp.
You need guys. You don't even can fill out a defensive tackle roster right now. You take T'Vondre Sweat. You do it. You just do it.
If you add him to the mix, would you think about adding Jalen Polk to that wide receiver room, doubling down, hoping that either Polk or Xavier Legette hit?
I think about it. And then I think, oh my gosh, T'Vondre Sweat is Dontari Poe.
Okay, we're going. There's still some good wide receiver talent on the board. There's still some good tackle talent on the board. So we will go double man meet with
and a guy who's a game
T'Vondre Sweat. Hey, we've got a couple of Texas guys. I like it. We don't have a third-round pick. Remember, we don't have a third-round pick to fill other voids. So I don't know about man meet and fill other voids, but we will pretend that phrasing didn't happen. I'm going to pick T'Vondre Sweat because it's just too fun not to. And Sterling desperately wants it. We're going to get graded here. Okay. Braden Fisk at 39 is a B+. Jatavian Sanders, the tight end out of Texas at 47 is a B+. Braden Fisk is the defensive tackle out of Florida State. Then Xavier Legette, wide receiver out of South Carolina at number 61. That is an A-.
Oh, wait, yours was a B+, mine was an A-, Best? Just checking.
Fisk was a B+. Sanders is a B+. Then Legette was an A-. I think Polk would have been an A- too. We had good choices there. And then T'Vondre Sweat was actually a B-. Maybe the folks.
Did you use PFF again?
Yeah.
Oh, they're wrong. It's how they have L'Jarius Sneed like a 70 overall. That's
Well, they're wrong sometimes. I mean, nobody is right all the time. I do think they haven't adjusted post combine. There are some things that are a little bit off. So that would be an interesting class. The Chiefs would get a tight end and a wide receiver who could hopefully come in and complement Rashee Rice, Isaiah Pacheco, and Travis Kelce right away. They would have arguably the most loaded defensive tackle room in the league after having arguably the least loaded a year ago. And really, the luxury there is you could limit Chris Jones snaps a little bit. So that
Chris Jones kicks outside a lot. And so if you have an obvious passing down situation, you throw in Fisk, you throw in Chris Jones on the outside. I mean, like, there's a lot of ways you can make this thing work. And again, if you want a guy who can stop the run with a little bit of upside, that's your Tavondre Sweat. Like, I get it all about the Derek Notties, but like, you know what you're getting with those dudes. Like,
Tavondre, the way he moves for a man that's 360 pounds is unreal. We might see some hungry pig right coming back, right?
Steve Cashman, you won today with and Snoop Menace out wide.
Oh, geez. Hey, I like Xavier Legette. I would have preferred Jalen Polk, but getting either of those guys at 61 is a good bargain. And in this exercise, we already signed Darnell Mooney, so we kind of threw a couple darts there. And the other thing to consider about this defensive tackle room, Charles Omenihu, I think the Chiefs' plan for him was to play inside. I don't know if it's a third of the time, half of the time, but that was part of their plan for the defensive tackle room. And now that's not going to be available maybe he'll be back to full strength for the playoffs. I kind of doubt it. So they need the bodies there, and they got them. You feeling good about this process? If the Chiefs did all of this offseason, would they be set up nicely to try to repeat or three-peat?
Dog. It's a three-peat.
It's a three-peat. It's a wrap.
It's a three-peat. It's not even close. Not even close, Best.
Go watch some Jatavian Sanders tape. The guy is going to be a player.
I'm just going to go say, you might ask why we're so confident, and it's because without confidence, well, all we have is our good looks.
Yeah, and without the mustache, I don't even know how much I can say that anymore. So,
dude, look at your mustache has already grown back thicker. Did you shave it all the way down, or did you kind of just trim it?
Yeah, I just trimmed it down to I don't know, the 2 setting or something.
I was about to say your hair follicles have to be the thickest things. They're tree stumps.
They are pretty thick. I kind of shave. If I don't really shave very often, but if I do actually shave, it's like the Homer Simpson. I by the time I rinse off, it's back. I never look baby face. There's always stubble. It's ridiculous.
The Tavondre Sweat of mustache facial hair.
Oh, the Tavondre Sweat. I mean, he is the kind of player that's so unique. It would just be a lot of fun to have him on the roster. I don't know that they're going to be able to get him at 64.
Yeah. I will say this before we get out of here. I see a lot of talk about running back. Obviously, I do think the Chiefs should bring in a running back. I whether it's a veteran, it's a rookie, maybe both. If you think Jet McKinnon's done, and if you think that Clyde's needs a new place, because Clyde's going to be a cheap contract, veteran minimum most likely. I think you look at Austin Eckler, what's his contract going to look like? And I do think you look at a running back spot, but I do think you look in the 5th, 6th, and 7th round. I mean, hell, you might even look at Cody Schrader. Sorry, this is my Mizzou bias showing, but you also saw what he did in the SEC, and it was absolutely absurd. His combine numbers will not wow you. Every time you watch him, you're like, wow, I don't see anything spectacular here, yet all you see is 4, 5, 6 yard gains time and time again. And oh yeah, he's a great pass catcher. And oh yeah, he's great in pass pro.
Going through these mocks, one thing I'm not worried about is running back depth. I'm always pretty much finding rounds 4, 5, and 6 good satellite backs, good pass blocking, pass catching running backs who I think would complement Isaiah Pacheco nicely. So, guys, thanks for hanging with us today. That's all we've got. Props to the chat. We appreciate you. Please mash the like button and subscribe button if you haven't yet. Audio pod listeners, consider giving us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. All that helps AA grow even faster. We will be back next Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. Central right here on the Arrowhead Addict channel. Until then, go Chiefs.